Good evening and welcome to round 7 of the 2019 Indian Motorcycle DTRA UK Flat Track Nationals from the Greenfield Dirt Track in Lincolnshire. It's our second visit this season to this purpose-built flat track facility, but having raced the TT course in round 3, we now move back to the Oval for the final night of the campaign. The gold medal itself is already settled in favour of Gerard Bilo, but now the fight for second is very much on. Although notionally 10 points separate second to fourth, with each rider's worst score of the campaign to be dropped, it's realistically much closer, just 4 points separating the podium contenders in the net scoring. One of that trio contesting the silver medal lines up here in Heat 1. Fastest qualifier Ferran Sastre has elected to line up off at gate number 3. Alongside him, on the outside of him, Simon Parkin on the number 139 was the 5th qualifier overall. Great performance from him to earn second seeding to Heat 1. On the inside of him, Peter Bose down in 9th in qualifying, making his first appearance since the early stages of this campaign, the veteran former champion. Settling in to complete the front row of the grid here, the number 217, Stephen Gernhill. Earlier on in the campaign, and in previous iterations of this knockout format, we've had 3 rows of 3 riders, but it looks as though we're going to have 4 rider rows, certainly on the front 2 rows of the grid here. 9 rider races, of course, in the opening round of heats between heats 1 and 4. Second row now completed by Terry Pywell, Sky Adams, Jamie Robertson and James O'Hara, with Gary Inman completing the field off the back row of the grid. Just 3 riders will march on from this one direct to the semi-final stages. Those that don't progress will go again in the Eliminators, heats 5 and 6. Underway with heat number 1, Ferran Sastre with a lightning start. Simon Parkin straight into second position. Around the outside, going the long way round, Jamie Robertson, but he overcooks it coming off turn 2. Locks up, gets out of shape and goes to the back. So the 3 riders in the qualification positions are the top 3 seeds to this one. Ferran Sastre leading the way. Simon Parkin, who was second seed, and Peter Most in third. The battle here is for 4th. Stephen Gernhill fending off the challenge of Terry Pywell, who's done a good job from the middle row to fend off Sky Adams in the early stages. Battle for second here. Peter Most has a much better line coming off turn number 4, and Simon Parkin ran off the blue groove coming off the top bend, and Boasty, who likes this place, Greenfield, he's ridden well here in the past, hooked it up on the inside line to come through for second. Ferran Sastre looking comfortable, no doubt about who's going to be the race winner in this one, but Peter Most overtaking a rider who was ahead of him in the seeding order based on a shortened qualifying session earlier on here today, and Simon Parkin relegated down to 3rd place as Gary Inman, having already passed Sky Adams, now gets through on the inside of Terry Pywell. Plenty of battles further down the order as well, crucial in terms of grid position for those elimination races where the first batch of riders will be knocked out from our 36 rider field here tonight. Simon Parkin losing ground, but should be able to hold on for 3rd position. It's going to be Ferran Sastre and Peter Most who head into the final lap in the crucial top 2 positions. They'll be due to line up off the front row of the grid at the semi-final stage. Further down the order, Gary Inman scrapping for position. He's done well to get through off the back row of the grid and up into P5, but that's going to be the glass ceiling for him. Sastre it is who takes the opening race victory of the day. Boasty joins him on the front row of the grid for the semi-final stage. Simon Parkin gets 3rd. He's through direct to the semi-finals. He seemed satisfied enough about that. Stephen Gernhill, best of the rest. He'll have first choice of starting positions come the Eliminators, heats 5 and 6. Confirmation of the result in full. Gary Inman, Sky Adams, Terry Pywell, James O'Hara and Jamie Robertson. In that order, we'll move on to heat number 5. Ferran Sastre, Peter Most and Simon Parkin book their place in semi-final number 1. Straight on with Heat 2, Tom Neve makes his first appearance since Kings Lynn 2017 as the second seed through qualifying. He goes off the outside gates for this one, Heat 2. Sean Kelly lines up directly on the inside of him, 6th in qualifying, great performance from the number 33. 10th qualifier Rob Meir, 3rd pick for this one. He's gone for gate 2, completing the front row, Gareth Williamson. Middle row of the grid, Tom Moore, Chris Koch, Angus Goff and Mike Goodfellow. James Smith completes the lineup. Surprised to see Angus Goff as far back on the grid as he is. He'll be looking to work his way through to get into those all-important top 3 positions. Light is on and we're underway. Neve from the outside start position, joined around the first 2 turns by Rob Meir, but Neve manages to clear him coming off the second bend. Meir locks up to too great an extent. Pass for 3rd position early on. Gareth Williamson getting the better of Sean Kelly. Kelly, though, on the outside line, coming around him at the end of the opening lap to recover that all-important 3rd position. So as we settle down then, it's Tom Neve out in front and looking good, pulling clear of Rob Meir in second position. Sean Kelly still coming under some pressure from Gareth Williamson, who's got pressure from behind from Angus Goff, as down goes Mike Goodfellow, looking to the outside of Angus Goff into the top bend, and slipped and slid and down he went. Angus Goff now charging through, up the inside of Gareth Williamson. He recovers fourth position. Can he go after Sean Kelly now for a place in the top three and an automatic transfer spot to the semi-finals? Top two are the riders that you might have predicted before we got underway here. Tom Neve and Rob Meir looking good for a front row grid slot for the semi-final stages. Sean Kelly was certainly coming back at Rob Meir, but got out of shape there coming off the second bend and had to have a good look over his shoulder to make sure that he can consolidate that third place, as again he's riding a bucket bronco coming off turn number 4 there, Sean Kelly. He's got to watch out that Angus Goff doesn't get a smoother run in the closing stages and hunts him down. Goff losing a bit of ground though coming off the second bend, and I would say that our top three are going to be the top 3 seeds coming into this race, who march on as we go into the final lap now, with Rob Meir looking comfortable in second position ahead of Sean Kelly, and it's going to be Tom Neve taking his first race victory with the DTRA since that final win at Kings Lynn Dirtquake 2017. Neve is back, and the 68 gets top spot in heat number 2. Rob Meir over the line for second. Sean Kelly also moves through. Angus Goff then best of the rest. He'll have to go again in the elimination phase. But it's a one-wheeled celebration for Tom Neve. He and his brother Tim in the lineup here tonight. Tim as the wild card riding with the number 15, and Tom Neve with his regular race number 68 takes the checkered flag and marches on to the semi-finals. Neve will be joined in SF2 by Rob Meir and Sean Kelly. Going to heat number 6, Angus Goff, Gareth Williamson, Chris Koch, James Smith, Tom Moore, and the faller there, Mike Goodfellow. Heat 3 features the 2 Greenfield Kawasaki's of Toby Hales and Gerard Bilo. Bilo back at the scene of his UK debut back in 2017. He is the first rider to pick for the third race of the day here at what is effectively his home circuit. Toby Hales also lining up in this one, the number 1 who's going to have to hand that plate over to teammate Bilo after tonight. Leah Toklov, great performance in qualifying, up in 7th position, will complete that front row on the outside, and then it's Sam Hurst who lines up off the inside start position. So Bilo's gone for gate 3, Toklov with second choice has gone for gate 4, Hales with third choice has gone off 2. Disappointing performance in qualifying for Hales down in 11th, and Sam Hurst completes row 1. Middle row of the grid features Trevor Heath off the inside, Joe Banks off gate 2, Mike Fisher off 3, Krista Combar and Ian Cherry complete our 9-rider lineup. We get underway with Bilo making a fast start, cutting straight to the inside line. Toklov with a good move around turn 1, cuts back to the inside off the second bend. Hales is dicing with Sam Hurst to move into the top 3 positions. That would be good enough for him to march on to the semi-final stages, but if he wants a front row grid slot for the semis, he's got to find his way past Leah Toklov, who sits in second place, and between himself and fellow Kawasaki runner Gerard Bilo out in front. Top 3 breaking away from the rest of the group, as you largely might have expected. Sam Hurst doing a good job in 4th to consolidate that position, as Hales now gets down the inside of Leah Toklov and through for second position. See if Toklov can respond, but at the moment this would be good enough for her to move direct through to the semi-final stages, and I think she'll be satisfied enough with that. Bilo leaving the blue groove ever so slightly there, coming around turns 3 and 4. See if Toby Hales can try and hunt him down, because Hales looks the faster of the 2 at the moment in second position, and is making up ground on the newly confirmed 2019 champion Gerard Bilo. Bilo out in front, Hales still in second. Toklov was keeping good pace until she bobbled there coming around the pits turn, and she's dropped back now from the top 2, but still the length of a straight ahead of Sam Hurst, who is going to have to content himself with best of the rest in 4th position and go again in heats 5 and 6. Bilo well on his way towards victory, heads into the final lap. That gap hasn't really come down significantly, with Toby Hales still off in hot pursuit, but having his hands full with Leah Toklov, who's kept good pace. She looks over her shoulder there coming off the second bend. Close battle for 4th as well, with Joe Banks chasing the tail of Sam Hurst. Hurst should hold on. It's Bilo who wins it. Hales over the line in second. Toklov, good performance again from her in 3rd. 4th going the way of Sam Hurst, and Joe Banks just looking over his shoulder to check that he has well and truly settled 5th position in that one, heat number 3. once again, the top 3 seeds to that race, moving on to the semi-final stages. But the interest of that one was the fight for second, with Toklov having out-qualified Toby Hales, but being passed by him in the first half of that third race of the day. Those 3 all moved through to semi-final number 2, Bilo, Hales and Toklov, with Bilo and Hales on the front row of the grid for that second semi-final. Heat 4 with Tim Neve making his first championship appearance since 2015. He'll start as the favourite. First seed here, he's gone for the outside of the front row. Second seed to this one, 8th qualifier overall, Gary Birtwistle. He's gone for gate 3. Mike Hill, 12th qualifier. Third seed to this one has gone off gate 2. And Jordan Miller completes the front row. 16th overall in qualifying. He'll be hoping to break the top 3 on the outside of him. Middle row of the grid, Chris Jenner off the inside, Stephen Campbell off gate 2, and George Sturgis off gate 3. Felix Hearn and Wesley Aegis completing the field. Aegis preferring the blue groove run down to the first turn. We get underway. Gary Birtwistle it is who's made the faster start. Catches Tim Neve by surprise. You can see Neve's regular flat track race number, the 14 on his back. Is the number 15 bike here today for the wildcard, trying to hunt down the number 11, the early race leader. Mike Hill occupies third position. Way wide around the outside line. Felix Hearn getting out of shape. Manages to hold on in the penultimate position, looking over his shoulder. Battles as ever out at the back, but at the front of the field we've got Tim Neve trying to stalk Gary Birtwistle for this race lead. Birtwistle with a fantastic start off gate number 3, and I wonder whether Tim Neve made the wrong selection there for starting position, going for the outside, because Tom Neve made it and it worked well enough for him, but Tim Neve 2 races later is relegated to second position. Gary Birtwistle starting to come under pressure now as Tim Neve finds his rhythm. Third place well and truly consolidated by Mike Hill. Jordan Miller not too far behind, but not close enough to strike either. Neve looking to the outside line, coming off the second bend, urging the bike forward. Now cuts down to the inside, into turn number 3. Birtwistle can't afford to leave the inside run open. Tim Neve has squared it off nicely, coming off the 4th turn. Gets alongside Gary Birtwistle. Rubbing's racing. Birtwistle couldn't put his left leg where he wanted to, and Tim Neve comes through to hit the front. Great ride from Tim Neve. Frenetic activity up at the front of the field, and Neve has now broken from Gary Birtwistle as they head into the final lap. So Tim Neve's pace was certainly being held back by Birtwistle there, and it's Tim Neve who is accelerating away. Gary Birtwistle will be happy enough to resume his rivalry with Neve in the semi-final stages, and off the front row of the grid as well as they finish in the top 2. It's Neve who looks over his shoulder, it's Birtwistle who takes second. Mike Hill also moving through, and Jordan Miller, the biggest name from that one, Heat 4, to miss out. The top 3 seeds to each of the opening 4 races of the day. The top 12 in qualifying all move through to the semi-final stages. The rest have to go again in the Eliminators. Heats 5 and 6 up next, but Neve is safely through, as are Birtwistle and Hill. Good performance from Mike Hill, best we've seen of him in the opening round of races this season. Jordan Miller will go again against Jenner, Campbell, Aegis and the rest in Heat 5. On to the Eliminators, only 6 places up for grabs in each of Heats 5 and 6 to move on to the semi-final stages. 12 riders will be eliminated over the next 2 heats. Top seeds to this one, Stephen Gernhill and Jordan Miller, who finished in 4th position in their opening rides. They will go off gates 2 and 3 on the front row. Gary Inman's got the outside of that front row. Good performance from him first time out with 5th, and Chris Jenner also 5th in his opening ride, goes from the inside of row 1. Row number 2 will be completed by James O'Hara, who's just coming onto the track now. Sky Adams alongside him. Stephen Campbell off gate 3 and Terry Pywell completing the middle row. George Sturgis, Felix Hearn, Wesley Aegis and Jamie Robertson off the back row of the grid. Surprise in particular in the case of George Sturgis and Jamie Robertson, who were last in their opening outings. Robertson getting it all wrong around the first 2 turns. Needs to fight back now into the top 6 positions here. We're underway. James O'Hara hasn't got off the line. Disaster for the number 66, will be the first rider tonight to be eliminated. Fight at the front of the field. It's been a great start for front row rider Stephen Gernhill. Jordan Miller moving into attack mode, looking for the cutback already, coming off turn number 4. Side by side as well in the battle for 3rd position. Miller's got his line through on the inside of Gernhill to hit the front. He'll now try and break away, but the battle is crucial behind for 6th position. Sky Adams at the moment holds that 6th place. coming under some pressure though from Terry Pywell for the last of those transfer spots. Close for third as well. Gary Inman doing what he needs to do at the moment in fourth. Was a great start from Jamie Robertson to get from the back row of the grid and now up into third place. Sky Adams keeping the pressure on the back of Chris Jenner in the battle for fifth position, and as long as she does that, she'll be able to keep herself clear of the drop zone. Sky Adams though under some pressure. As you can see, she's got a train of riders directly behind her. They come back into turns 1 and 2 once again. Thankfully for Adams, the riders behind her engaged in their own scraps over 7th position, and that is enabling her to consolidate the P6 that she needs to march on to the semi-final stages. Top 2 in this one will line up off the middle row of the grid, so it's a good job for Jordan Miller and Stephen Gernhill, who were best of the rest first time out and have lived up to their billing in this one, heat number 5. Still Gary Inman pressurising on the tail of Jamie Robertson. Looks slightly faster at this stage of the race. The leaders coming into the final lap. Still Inman pursuing Robertson. Still Adams pursuing around the outside line now of Jenner. And Jenner, having started off the inside of that front row, has slipped back into the clutches of Sky Adams, but should march on to the semi-final stage. Miller it is who wins it. Super performance from him to get the better of Stephen Gernhill from behind as well. No position changes in the latter stages, inside the top 6 at least. So the result of heat number 5 sees Jordan Miller home for victory ahead of Gernhill. Third place going the way of Jamie Robertson. Robertson, Inman, Jenner and Sky Adams will go off the back row of the grid for the semi-final stages. Miller and Gernhill will have a place on the middle row of the grid. Terry Pywell, Wesley Aegis, George Sturgis, Stephen Campbell, Felix Hearn and James O'Hara, who failed to get off the line in that one, heat number 5, are the first casualties of this knockout format here at the Greenfield Oval tonight. Heat 6 now, and this one features Angus Goff. A surprise to see him in this stage of the competition, and under pressure he lines up off the outside of the front row. Alongside him Sam Hurst, who also finished 4th in his opening ride. Front row completed by Gareth Williamson off gate number 1 and Joe Banks off gate 2, each 5th place finishers first time out. From the middle row, we've got Trevor Heath, 6th place in his opening ride. Alongside him, just coming into line now, James Smith. Gate 3, Chris Koch, and Chris de Combar off the outside of the middle row. From the back row, Mike Fisher, who finished 8th place first time out, going off the outside, and Tom Moore, who also finished 8th, going off gate number 2, leaving Ian Cherry with the inside of the back row, and Mike Goodfellow to go off gate number 3 following his fall first time out. Riders waiting for the lights then. Watch for Angus Goff, the favourite off the outside of the front row. Run down to the first turn. Sam Hurst has made a good one. Goff around the outside line of him. Side by side as they come off turn 2. Sam Hurst has moved Goff far enough to consolidate that position. Great battle going on for 6th place further back down the order. 3rd is consolidated early on by the number 147, Gareth Williamson. 4th position then directly behind Williamson, we've got Chris Koch. Koch actually went up the back of Gareth Williamson into turn number 3 last lap around. More action into bend 3 this lap as Angus Goff gets down the inside of Sam Hurst and through for the race lead. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all closely packed together on the circuit. Joe Banks here is under pressure. Trevor Heath looking good in P5, but Banks is under real pressure from Chris de Combar. And if it all goes wrong for those two, there's a group of 3 riders directly behind looking to capitalise. Angus Goff consolidating this race, looking comfortable at the halfway stage with Sam Hurst tracking him in 2nd position. Williamson looking comfortable in 3rd. Koch still in 4th position. The battle here for 6th place. Joe Banks desperately needs this one to march on to the semi-final stages, but on the outside line of him, Chris de Combar making it hard work for him. Koch runs wide. De Combar's gone down. Well, that's certainly going to make things easier for Joe Banks. Chris Koch as well gets out of jail 3 there as he holds on to 5th position. Banks has got a bit of a gap behind him. Daylight emerging now behind 6th position as de Combar makes it off onto the infield. Under yellow flags, the race continues. We're into the final lap now for Angus Goff. Sam Hurst in 2nd position, and the top 3 becoming spread out from one another. Close fight actually for 3rd position in the closing stages, with Gareth Williamson holding valiantly on, but it's going to be Angus Goff who locks it nicely off the final turn to take the checkered flag ahead of Sam Hurst in 2nd, 3rd to Williamson, 4th over the line in the end Trevor Heath after Chris Koch's botched attempt at the top turn earlier on in the race. He nonetheless moves on to the semi-final stages. He will be delighted about that. Disappointment for Chris de Comba, who went down whilst chasing Joe Banks. For a moment there, Joe Banks, who started up on the front row of the grid, was under real pressure just to make it through. In the end, he takes 6th spot. That's enough for him to go through to semi-final number 2. But it's Angus Goff and Sam Hurst who take those coveted top 2 positions to line up off the middle row of the grid at the semi-stage. Williamson, Heath, Koch and Banks also marching on. Semi-final time. The top 5 at this stage of the competition move through to tonight's grand final. 12th place will be eliminated. Positions 6 to 11 will go again in the repechage, the last chance qualifier, but there will be only 2 positions up for grabs from that one. So the key is to try and progress here. Top 5 moving through. First choice of starting position goes to Ferran Sastre, courtesy of his victory in heat number 1. He won that race in a faster winning time than Tim Neve in heat 4, who's therefore 2nd seed. He's gone off gate number 2. Gary Birtwistle and Peter Bose, 2nd place in their opening rides, complete that front row, which now reads Gary Birtwistle off 1, Tim Neve off 2, Ferran Sastre off 3, and Peter Bose off 4. Jordan Miller, the winner of heat number 5, just coming into position off gate 2. 3rd place in the opening round, Mike Hill and Simon Parkin had first choice of starting positions there. Hill off 1, Miller off 2, Gurn Hill off 3, and Parkin off the outside. From the back row of the grid, just settling in now, Sky Adams finished 6th in heat 5, going off the inside. Gary Inman alongside her. Chris Jenner off gate number 3 and Jamie Robertson off the outside of the back row. Semi-final number 1, top 5 all important as we get underway. Robertson with a decent start off the outside of that back row actually, but it's Gary Birtwistle who gets there first off the inside, moves Ferran Sastre out of the way. That works nicely for Tim Neve. The route cleared for him to come through down the inside line. Peter Most also fancied a sniff, but he got it wrong into turn 3, ran deep and had to work hard to get back across the front of Mike Hill. Boast balked Hill ever so slightly. That's given Simon Parkin the run around the outside line. Jordan Miller outside of the qualification positions as things stand. He's trying to fight back. Parkin gets all the way around the outside of Mike Hill now. Through and into those qualification positions. Great ride there from Simon Parkin. Battle on for 2nd position. Tim Neve coming under pressure now from Ferran Sastre. He knows he's got to clear Birtwistle quickly, otherwise Sastre might move through into the top 2 positions. Top 2 will feature off the front row of the grid for the grand final tonight. So those are coveted places, coveted rankings here in semi-final number 1. Gary Birtwistle covering the inside line. Tim Neve coming back at him. Thunders down the inside line into turn 3. Not sure if he expected that to be a move, but he's made it nonetheless. Kid's gone down in 5th. Mike Hill scrambles to avoid him. Chaos on the top turn. Meanwhile, on turns 1 and 2, Sastre's got past Birtwistle. A disappointing lap for the number 11, who's gone from 1st to 3rd in just over a lap. Tim Neve now consolidating the race-leading position. Sastre will be off in hot pursuit, but Gary Birtwistle set to line up off the middle row of the grid now after dropping back from the race lead. All sorts of carnage further down the order, but I think that settled the last of our semi-finalists. Mike Hill pushed out of the qualification position. Simon Parkin going down, and that means that up into P5 goes Jordan Miller, who will count his blessings for that one. He's had to do it the hard way, through via the elimination phase, of course. Tim Neve also doing things the hard way in this one. He's come through from 3rd position to lead us. He's got the better first of Ferran Sastre and then of Gary Birtwistle. He's about to encounter Simon Parkin, who of course went down earlier in the race. Parkin moves out of the way. It's going to be plain sailing to the checkered flag. Tim Neve wins it to move through to tonight's grand final. Celebrates with a little wheelie over the line as well. Ferran Sastre gets 2nd. Gary Birtwistle dropping back in the latter stages. Peter Most looked pretty fast there in the closing laps. 5th place goes to Jordan Miller. Mike Hill will be among the favourites for the LCQ. He was very unfortunate there with Simon Parkin falling right in his path. Parkin will be eliminated, therefore, from semi-final number 1. Misses out on a spot in the LCQ. He was in line to go through to the final. What a disappointing incident that one for Simon Parkin. No such disappointment up front for Tim Neve, getting the better of Ferran Sastre to earn a place on the front row of the grid for tonight's grand final. 2nd row of the grid will be Gary Birtwistle and Peter Bose, with Jordan Miller also marching on. So having seen brother Tim victorious in the first semi-final, Tom Neve now hopes to uphold the family tradition in semi-final number 2. First choice of starting position goes the way of 2019 champion Gerard Bailo, the winner of the faster round 1 race. He's gone off gate number 3. Tom Neve will line up alongside him then off gate number 4. Third pick goes the way of Toby Hales, runner-up in his opening ride. He's gone for the pole, leaving Rob Meir off gate 2 on row 1. Let's go through the rest of the riders then in seeding order. Leah Toklove and Sean Kelly, third place, first time out. They go off gates 3 and 4 respectively. Winner of heat 6, Angus Goff, has selected gate number 2. Sam Hurst completes the middle row now, off gate number 1. Gareth Williamson, third in that heat 6, has chosen gate number 3. Next to choose, Trevor Heath goes off the inside. Then Chris Koch goes for the outside off the back row, and Joe Banks completes the field. 12 riders, with only the top 5 progressing to tonight's grand final. Riders asked to watch for the light, which comes on. Hales making a good start off the inside. Tom Neve cuts across the front of Gerard Bilo in the run down to the first turn, and Bilo is stuck in the pack, working his way through. Tom Neve with a move on Toby Hales, coming off the second bend, hits the front. Watch out for Bilo, working his way around the outside line now, challenging Sean Kelly for 4th position. You wouldn't have expected to find Gerard Bilo so far back down the field. At the moment, he'd line up off the back row of the grid for tonight's grand final. He's got to try and pick off Sean Kelly. He looks to the inside into turn number 3. Kelly has it covered for the moment at least. Bilo being made to work hard by Goff, and Kelly up ahead of him. Bilo down in 5th position. Sam Hurst in 6th, drifting away from the back of Bilo. His chances of making automatic qualification looking remote. Disappointment early on for Rob Meir as well. Tom Neve really causing carnage in the run down to the first turn, cutting across from that outside start position. Toby Hales got his start position choice absolutely right as Meir comes back now down the inside to make a move on Sam Hurst, but that's only for 6th position. Remember, only the top 5 will march on direct to tonight's grand final. Sean Kelly being held up at this stage of the race by Angus Goff. That allows Bilo through on Kelly. He's going to get a buy one get one free deal here. Bilo passes Goff, who moves right to the outside line and drops back from Sean Kelly. So Kelly ends up holding 4th position once again, but it's Bilo who's gone from 5th to 3rd. Outstanding action in semi-final number 2, all triggered by Tom Neve cutting across aggressively from the outside and sandwiching both Meir and Bilo, who slipped backwards through the pack. Both are now recovering. Bilo's up to 3rd, but I think it's too big an ask for him to try and get on terms with this top 2 and move on to the front row of the grid for tonight's grand final. Rob Meir, meanwhile, is working his way through. Leah Toklove challenging him in the latter stages, and Angus Goff has dropped behind the pair, so disappointment for Angus Goff, and Rob Meir will recover a place in tonight's grand final. Leah Toklove trying to take it away from him in the closing stages. We're in now to the final lap with Toby Hales trying to chase down Tom Neve. It's not going to be, it's going to be a Neve win in both semi-finals. Tim does it in SF1, and semi-final 2 goes the way of Tom Neve. Toby Hales over the line in 2nd, 3rd to Gerard Bilo, 4th to Sean Kelly, 5th to Leah Toklove, who raises her hand as she comes over the line, having collided on the final 2 turns there with Rob Meir. Meir has gone down, and Toklove has come through for the last of the transfer spots. Angus Goff, having got it wrong earlier on in the race, drops out. He'll go through the last chance qualifier. Sam Hurst likewise, Joe Banks, Gareth Williamson, Chris Koch and Trevor Heath will live to fight another day. And it's bad news for Rob Meir, who ends up out at the back in that one following a last bend clash with Leah Toklove. Drama in semi-final 2 from start to finish. On now to the last chance qualifier, and the first 2 riders onto track are the favourites to make progression to tonight's grand final. Mike Hill has the first choice of starting position. Angus Goff will line up directly on the inside of him here, or for gate number 2. Each finished in 6th position in the semi-finals. Hill was unfortunate with Simon Parkin falling in front of him. Angus Goff got out of shape whilst in a qualifying position and ended up dropping back. So both looking for a reprieve from this one. Next to pick, 7th place, Sam Hurst. We're missing Stephen Gurnhill up at the line because Joe Banks has gone in off the inside gate here of that front row. So Joe Banks gets promoted. Good news for him, he's got the pole. Next to pick should have been Chris Jenner, but it looks as though we're missing Jenner up at the start line as well. So that's given Gareth Williamson and Sky Adams the middle row of the grid, but Trevor Heath gets promoted from the back row and up to the inside of that middle row. We're missing Gary Inman as well, so 3 riders are non-starters for this last chance qualifier. Well, that certainly reduces the odds, doesn't it, for the other riders up on the front 2 rows of the grid. A couple of backwards looks to see if any of the remaining 3 are going to emerge out onto the circuit, but it certainly doesn't look like it. Disappointing for Stephen Gernhill, who was decent in the semi-final stages. Run away with the LCQ, and it's Angus Goff who's made the start off gate number 2. Fight now is for second position. Joe Banks trying to do battle with Mike Hill. Hill comes around him. Banks has the inside for turn 3, but he's already too far back. 3 abreast now for 4th position. These 3 can't afford to hold one another up. Jamie Robertson goes around the outside line on the top bend, favouring that outside run, but the dirt cushion not really working in favour of the riders at this stage. With him now switching back to the blue groove, we'll see if he can make progress. He's challenging Sam Hurst, but that's all for 4th position behind Joe Banks, who's the cork in the bottle here, enabling the top 2 to scamper away. Angus Goff and Mike Hill, barring any incident, look like the comfortable favourites to move through before we got underway, and are certainly proving why as they sprint clear out in front. Sam Hurst going in deep there into turn number 3. Robertson going even wider, and he loses a position there actually, with Sky Adams now menacing on his tail, and Trevor Heath having already come through the number 919, but that's largely academic. 3 championship points available, of course, to the rider who finishes in 3rd position in this one. It's not about championship points for these riders, it's about trying to get into the grand final tonight, and it's going to be Angus Goff and Mike Hill who will do that. Trevor Heath putting in his best performance to date as he challenges on the inside of Sam Hurst. We've got a battle up front heading into the final lap as well. This is going to determine between 11th and 12th choice of starting positions for tonight's grand final. And it looks as though Angus Goff is going to take his second race victory of the day. He's doing it the hard way. He won the Eliminator heat number 6. He's won the Eliminator, the last chance qualifier. And Angus Goff goes to the grand final ahead of Mike Hill. Both of them taking the positions that they were expected to. Frankly, the top 2 positions from that last chance qualifier to move forward. Good performance from Joe Banks to get championship points on the board in 3rd position. It's been a tough night for him, but he challenged on the opening lap in particular for a top 2 slot, capitalising on being promoted onto that front row of the grid. Sam Hurst behind him 4th position, and Trevor Heath gets 5th for a first championship point. Jamie Robertson missing out. He went wide around the top bend and dropped out of those points-paying positions. Sky Adams, Chris Koch and Gareth Williamson also eliminated, as well as the 3 non-starters in that one. The last race of the 2019 season is tonight's grand final here at Greenfield. A look at the seeding order. Tom Neve will have first pick of starting positions ahead of brother Tim. Toby Hales and Ferran Sastre will complete the front row. From the middle row, Gerard Bilo, Gary Birtwistle, Sean Kelly and Peter Most. And from the back row, Leo Toklov, Jordan Miller and the 2 last chance qualifiers, Angus Goff and Mike Hill. Tim Neve has first pick. Both he and Tom winners at the semi-final stage, of course, but Tim in the faster time. So he has gone for gate number 3. Tom directly on the inside of him, gate number 2. Across the front row then, Ferran Sastre off 1, Tom Neve off 2, Tim Neve off 3, and Toby Hales completing the 4 that line up off row 1. Second row of the grid, 2018 winner Gerard Bilo, a surprise to find himself all the way back down there. He'll go off gate number 2. Gary Birtwistle goes on the inside of him off gate 1. We've got Sean Kelly off gate 3 and Peter Most off the outside. Waiting for the riders to come onto track to determine the back row of the grid. Next up to pick will be Leo Toklov and Jordan Miller, who finished in 5th position in their semi-finals. And the 2 last chance qualifiers, Angus Goff and Mike Hill. Last season's winner around this circuit, Gerard Bilo then. The 2019 champion already confirmed. Can he end his campaign with another podium finish? Ferran Sastre, winner last time out at Redcar. Can he make it back-to-back wins as he tries to defend 2nd in the series standings? Gary Birtwistle and Toby Hales also in contention for that. Hales with 3 podiums in a row at this stage of the season, looking to make it 4 on the bounce and end on a high, end on a championship podium position. Leo Toklov coming out onto the circuit. Angus Goff as well, just being informed that Rob Meir will take a promoter's pick for this grand final. So Rob Meir, having been brought down in the semi-final stages, will get a reprieve for this one. An unusual looking 13-rider lineup then for the grand final. The last grand final of the 2019 campaign gets underway. It's a good start off the inside from Ferran Sastre. Sastre leads them early on. Tim Neve trying to go the long way round the outside. Tom Neve with the cutback slots into third position. Fast progress from Gerard Bilo. Oh, a big incident there going into turn number 3. Sastre is brought down by Tim Neve, who came in from way back, and the pair have gone down. And it was a nasty looking high side for Tim Neve into the third turn. The race, unsurprisingly, has had to be stopped there. Sean Kelly on the outside line can't believe what he's just witnessed. Having earned a brilliant middle row grid slot, you find yourself right up in the thick of the action towards the front of the field in the grand final. Gerard Bilo stops to check on his fellow countrymen. We'll see the incident again here. Tim Neve from way back coming into turn number 3. You can tell he's trying to get it stopped. He can't. And he wipes out the back wheel of Ferran Sastre before going for a high side himself. Toby Hales does well to avoid the pair, actually. But he likewise goes down with 4 riders at very least impeded by that. It was no great surprise that the race had to be stopped. And we'll go for a second time of asking. Well, Rob Meir might be grateful for having been off the very back there and working his way swiftly through. Another rider who will be very grateful for the restaging is Jordan Miller, because he had completely missed the start of the inside of the back row of the grid. So a second time of asking for these riders. I suspect that we will see Tim Neve going back off the penalty line, so off the very back, the 4th row of the grid, for the restaging of this grand final. It was the opening lap, so it'll be a full restart, but Tim Neve surely will be penalised as the cause of the stoppage for that one. Riders settling in then. See Ferran Sastre off the inside of the front row. Take a breath. We're going to do it all over again. Sastre looks as though he's just trying to bend things back into position. Tom Neve lining up alongside him. Tom looking over his shoulder. Tim Neve moving forward, but he must have been advised that he's going off the back row of the grid here. He was shaking his head, and he's got to do it the hard way here if he wants to make it a victory here today. As you can see, a line freshly painted just for Tim Neve. He'll be going off the very back. So an opportunity for Peter Boast, who you can see will be gunning for that vacant slot off gate number 3. Away they go, Boast with too much lift. It's Ferran Sastre who gets there first. Toby Hales around the outside coming off turn number 2. Tom Neve gets a bump from Gary Birtwistle, fighting his way through into 3rd place. Gerard Bilo's already up into 4th, side by side for the race lead. Hales trying to go around the outside for top spot against Ferran Sastre. Hales with plenty of experience on this track, of course, a track expert here at Greenfield. And Gerard Bilo is now through into podium contention. He gets down the inside of Gary Birtwistle. And could Gerard Bilo, who won here last season, of course, be victorious again in 2019? Gary Birtwistle coming under more pressure now from Tom Neve, who's trying to recover. Didn't make a good start off the front row of the grid. He's past Gary Birtwistle now. Rob Meir is next in line to try and pass the number 11. Oh, another move from way back from Tim Neve. He hasn't learnt his lesson, has he? Really came thundering down the inside to make that pass. He's got the job done though. Sastre then is our leader. We may have a change of second position here because Gerard Bilo's looking at the inside of Toby Hales, who didn't get a good run off turn number 2. Hales unsettled. Bilo for the moment at least can't pounce. Plenty of laps in the grand final for him to try and make that move, but Hales is holding back Gerard Bilo here, and Tom Neve is closing down the pair of them. Through the inside now goes Gerard Bilo. Will he be able to make the apex on the pits bend? He will, and through for second position is Gerard Bilo, and can our 2019 champion now stop back-to-back victories for his fellow countryman Ferran Sastre? Is there time for the number 17 to haul in the number 215 who leads us? Sastre in front, Bilo in second, Hales in third under pressure from Tom Neve. The winners of the semi-finals, the Neve brothers, have found themselves out of podium positions here. Tom Neve up in 4th place, Tim Neve some way further adrift in terms of position on the track, but actual race position he sits in P5, so a decent damage limitation job from Tim Neve. Just can't get back on terms with our race leaders. A shame really from the neutral perspective that we were denied seeing Tim Neve racing at the front of the field, because I'm sure he would have provided plenty of spark to the action. Tom Neve now closing down Toby Hales. That's been the story of the last few laps, but there's no change up front, and it doesn't look as though there's going to be. Ferran Sastre losing a little bit of ground perhaps to Gerard Bilo, but not much in it, and Sastre is doing exactly what he needs to do to take the silver medal in 2019, and Gary Birtwistle is well down the order, so it should be Toby Hales snatching 3rd position from Birtwistle, and Birtwistle who in the early stages of this season was a contender for the title, looks set to miss out on the championship podium altogether. Birtwistle, remember, the winner of the opening round. Bilo won rounds 2 and 3. Hales, Dijkstra and Sastra have all been winners as well, and it looks as though it's going to be Ferran Sastra, only the second rider this season to win 2 rounds of this 2019 campaign. Ferran Sastra well on his way towards the victory then, just ticking down the laps. 15 in the grand final. It's the longest race of the night, of course, as you'd expect with it being the main event. Still close for 3rd position. Still, Toby Hales has Tom Neve all over him like a shadow at the moment from P3. But Hales doing what he needs to do to confirm a 4th consecutive podium, and that will be enough for him in the context of the championship as well. Gary Birtwistle well and truly dropped. Surprised we haven't seen more of the leaders encountering lapped runners as yet, because the pace at the front is absolutely breakneck. Ferran Sastra, you can see the stragglers at the back of the group coming around turns 1 and 2, just as Sastra crossed the start-finish line to start yet another lap. Still the race is for 3rd position. Tom Neve can't get up the inside of Toby Hales. It's a well and truly grooved-in circuit. At this stage, there's only one real racing line. Ferran Sastra coming around the outside of Jordan Miller ahead of the final lap. Miller a lap down now and pulling up on the infield. Disappointment for him in the end. But no such disappointment for Ferran Sastra. It might be Gerard Bilo who'll be celebrating the championship tonight, but Ferran Sastra ends 2019 on a high. Back-to-back victories to close out the UK Nationals. 3rd over the line goes to Toby Hales, critical for him as he takes the bronze medal in 2019 away from Gary Birtwistle. Birtwistle leading a train over the line from 6th position back. Boast, Mir, Toklov, Kelly, all in close attendance to round out the top 10 in one group. But it's celebration time for Ferran Sastra. Just one defeat here tonight from 3 rides. He was beaten in semi-final number 1 by Tim Neve. He was wiped out in the grand final by Tim Neve, and Neve then had too much work to do from the penalty line. He was unable to recover. Celebrations can now begin. A Spanish lockout, really, because we've got a Spanish champion and, of course, a Spanish winner here tonight. But we've had a great variety through this 2019 season, and both Gary Birtwistle and Toby Hales have done the British flag proud. George Pickering getting a lift round on that lap of honour with Ferran Sastra. He's been instrumental in making this Greenfield Oval such a success, of course, but also in the Team Greenfield for 2019 that's brought Ferran Sastra and Gerard Bilo such success this season. Only fitting then that George Pickering should join Ferran Sastra on a lap of honour of his own circuit. It's Sastra victorious at Greenfield tonight.
Falling off at the first one, and then just not very good results after that one. It's better than 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah, I am very happy to take my first championship in UK and also for the first Spanish, and my team did a really good job. I am very happy for with the Greenfield team, and also with the DTRA Championship. We did really good races, and good season.
Couldn't finish any better, so really stuck on that and really looking forward for next race.
What can we expect to see from you for next year?
I mean, that was my first year, so I'm really happy about how it went from the first race to this one. So I don't know. I mean, just follow my steps that I did this year. So maybe next year I could get any better, or maybe someone else take the crowd. But I would love to take the crowd next year.
So the drop round regulation works a treat for Toby Hales, who drops his fall from round 1 at Kings Lynn and leapfrogs Gary Birtwistle onto the podium for 2019. He joins the 2 Spaniards, Ferran Sastra and Gerard Bilo, who no doubt will be gunning for glory again next season. Bilo becomes the first ever Spanish winner of the UK Flat Track Nationals.